My name is Anthony James, and I love the German Netflix show Dark. I love it so much that I started a YouTube channel to talk about it. From the start, I've been told that the Dark train won't last forever, and if I want to continue to grow on YouTube, I need to move on. Well, you know what? I don't want to move on. This show is worth more. It's worth more theories, more analysis, deconstruction, and discussion. So if you're not ready to move on either, then you're in the right place. Right here on Dark Discussions. Hello, and welcome to Dark Discussions. I'm your host, Origin Anthony James. Thanks for joining me. Well, here we are. It's that time, finally, the character analysis of Bartosz. I can't believe we're here. Oh, it's going to be great. A lot of people jumping in the chat already telling me I'm going to catch it later. No problem, guys. Don't you worry. I'm doing this live for anyone who's here. If you need to catch it later, no problem with me. No problem with me. Thanks very much for everyone who's come in. Top New Pro's already said, I'm the bad guy. Great song. I love that song. It's a great song. Donnie's come in and says he has to go to his grandmother's birthday dinner. No problem, Donnie. You can watch it later on. Happy birthday to your grandmother. Maybe you've already left, so you can't get that message to her. Now, Marie has already come in, and there's no need for a video. I think Marie has actually said everything I need to say, to be completely honest with you. That he was a normal teenager and grew up a decent man. Lovely, Marie. Well, I am going to go into it a little bit more. Morning, Vic. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than that. Obviously, I do think that we have to take Bartosz in his context as well. When the show moves forward, we can all probably admit there's a lot of other, like a lot worse characters than him. But at the same time, we're still going to analyze it. We're still going to go through it. I have got a framing for it as well for this episode, so you'll see what that is in a minute. Hello, C Bad Moon, how are you? We're going to see how that is in what that is in a minute, and I will let you know. Before we get into it, if you haven't subscribed already, if you're watching this live or if you're watching this on the playback, could you please subscribe to the Culture Cave? We've got plenty of great stuff coming out. If you didn't catch my review of Tribes of Europa yet, watch that, because that's a show which has Oliver Masucci, who's Ulrich in Dark. He's in that one. Whether you like it or don't like it, hear my thoughts on the show. TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read, or Too Long Didn't Watch, I suppose. It's good fun, full of tropes, very cliche, but I did enjoy it. That's sort of where I'll sit on it for that very short description. I am going to be doing a discussion with it with my friend Emmett this Saturday, so check that out as well if you want to. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that sort of stuff. That'd be great, guys. If you're already in the live stream, if you could give it a like, that would be great. It would get it to more people. All right, so Bartosz. Before we start. 5,004 worth. You didn't miss the young Hannah discussion, but it is all young Hannah. We've already figured that out. It is all young Hannah. So will there be aspects of young Hannah in Bartosz? Of course there will. There's aspects. It's in the eyes. It's in the eyes. There's aspects of young Hannah everywhere. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is Bartosz, and I'll start out by saying that Bartosz obviously started out in the show as kind of like the dickish friend of Jonas, and we, on the After Dark podcast, had a lot to say about him in that regard. Now, as we move through the story, clearly it gets to the point where there's so much going on, like really bad guys and girls, bad guys and girls, that it's kind of really subjective to whether he is a bad guy anymore. Not that he ever really was. I mean, he was tempted by being a bad guy. Back in season 1, if you remember, he sort of went on the side of Noah for a while. Before then, obviously, Noah had his whole arc as well. But always a foreigner pops in and says, jackpot! Just exactly what I was thinking. I was really tempted to put that on the thumbnail, but I thought bad guy ? Might be a bit better. Vic Disco says, speaking of good German series, did anyone check out Barbarians? I watched the first episode of Barbarians. I haven't watched the rest. If you think I should, let me know. Okay, so let me see. Bartosz. The framing of this video today I'm going to do, I thought the best way to do it, and obviously if you guys will have things you want me to talk about the character of Bartosz as well, I thought the best thing to do would be to frame it in a way that encompasses a lot of his different areas of his story. I'm not going to include them all, obviously, but you can let me know which ones you want me to include. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off. It's going to be in 2 sections. I'm going to start off first of all with 5 times Bartosz was a good guy. 5 times Bartosz was a good guy. That's where I'm going to start. So that's the opening idea. Obviously, then the second half is going to be 5 times Bartosz was a bad guy. So that's where it's going to go. He's going to turn into Billie Eilish. So first one. The first one of why Bartosz is a good guy. Number 1. The time he rescued Francesca from becoming a drug addict. Now, not many people realize... If he didn't, now obviously, come on. There's the minor detail of pushing her to the ground. We can all say that was terrible. But in the first episode of season 1, when he pushes her to the ground and he says, "No, these are not your drugs," that was actually Bartosz saying to Francesca, "Don't ruin your life, love. Don't ruin your life. These drugs will send you down a horrible path." He was doing her a solid, and that is the number one reason, the first reason why Bartosz is a good guy. He actually stopped Francesca going down that path. I'm sure you all agree with me on that. That's the first part of why Bartosz is a good guy. And I have to be completely honest with you guys. That one was obvious to me and it stuck out to me. That's why it's number 1. I'm sure you will let me know in the comments what you think of that. Handsome Hereditary is already saying, wow. Yeah, I know. That is a wow one. It is a wow one. Francesca could have been terrible. Went down a terrible path, I know. Obviously, we do not condone pushing her to the ground. We all know that isn't a real good guy Bartosz point, but I sort of have to say that out loud just in case anyone doesn't realize the irony of what I'm saying. But at the same time, it is number 1 on the list. Yeah, am I gaslighting you right now? Technically, yes, actually. I am actually technically gaslighting you, I suppose, for the character of Bartosz. Not an intentional thing. Actually, no, it was completely intentional. I was reaching for things to mention. about the Bartosz character, and I couldn't really find them. So that one, I had to see the positive. But you all know how much I love Francesca, so there is that as well. Okay, number two. The time he stood up... Now, this is a real one. This is not a joke. The time he stood up to Stranger when he found out he was Adam. Now, this is actually a part of Bartosz which I can talk seriously about. He actually, whenever he grew up, and he was one of the ones who started to question Stranger. He didn't really trust him. Vic says that's quite a reach. I wonder if you're talking about this one, that this is a more serious one. He stood up to Stranger when he found out it was Adam. He wasn't sort of taking it. He didn't just, like, Magnus and Francesca seemed at that stage just to be sort of going along with Jonas, going along with what he was saying. Bartosz was questioning him, and I did like that maturity in his character. I liked how he came to there. I liked how he came to be more mature and came to stand up for himself and came to not accept that his life was at the mercy of someone else. Now, you could maybe say that eventually he kind of did accept that his life was at the... But I got the impression that he did sort of... For a time anyway, he thought he could take his life by the scruff of the neck and get it back on track. And I appreciate it, and I did respect him in those moments when he did that. So definitely. Okay, so next up. This is the time he was there for the birth of his child. Okay? Now, back in 1888, think about this. Back in 1888, could you imagine the town, the little hustle-bustle HG town, the townhouse factory, and the little Vinden town coming up around it? Can you imagine the rumors around town? Did you hear? Bartosz was at the birth of his child. That wasn't a thing. And I'm going to say to Bartosz, I'm very happy that he actually was there. He was there for the birth of Noah, which is not something you could say about many fathers back in those days. So he took his modern sensibilities into that time. And I appreciate him for that. I really, really do. Thank you very much, Bartosz. You're one of the good ones in that regard. Okay, next up. Let me see. What are we up to? So, I think we're up to number 4. Always a foreigner says, I suppose it is impressive that I got to punch Jonas in 2 different stages of his life. Yeah, actually, yeah, because they also had the tussle outside the school. That's really interesting, actually, because I was kind of on Bartosz's side in the second one, whenever it was adult stranger, like sort of middle, only one is one stranger, isn't there? Stranger Jonas. Whenever it was that and he was standing up to him, I kind of feel like that was, I was on Bartosz's side in that one, even though I knew that stranger sort of is inevitable, he has to do what he has to do. I was sort of on Bartosz's side in that disagreement. But in the first one, whenever Bartosz and Jonas will fight, I was fully on Jonas's side in that one. So that's interesting as well, how the characters sort of grow and how I changed, who I was rooting for in those fights, Okay, I think I'm up to this one. Yeah, okay, number 4. This is another joke one, let's be honest. The time he gave in to torture and told the gang everything. Now, it's interesting the way the show, and I'm sort of doing this to poke fun at the show a little bit, because let's just call a spade. They tortured Bartosz. They left him in the cave overnight. They did that. They left him in the cave overnight. They basically tortured him to get information out of him. And when he finally gave them the information, us as an audience were like, yes, good on you, Bartosz. Well done. You've done the right thing there. So I have to include one of the times he was a good guy is that he gave in to torture and gave them the information. I actually did feel sorry for Bartosz there. That was one of the moments. I felt sorry for Bartosz in the series. Is that, like, at that time, I'm sure Noah has filled his head full of all sorts of things, saying you're going to have to do this, to save the world. Bartosz probably 100% thought I'm doing the right thing here. 100% he thought I'm doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden, his friends like handcuff him, whatever they do, tie him up in the cave, leave him there all night, which is basically torture. That's what it is. I'm sure that would come under the definition of torture. Just leaving someone in a cave all night, trying to get information out of them. That's what it is, and it's really strange that us as an audience, we wanted that to happen in order to get the information. Really interesting. Handsome Heavendry says, damn, his mom was tortured at the caves too. Well, in the forest, yeah, oh, that's right, yeah, because then the huge noise and that, yeah, that's actually a nice little bit of symbolism there as well. The interesting thing is that it was Bartosz's friends that did it, whereas I'm not sure you could call Ulrich and Katarina Regina's friends, So maybe Bartosz's was actually a little bit worse. That's harsh to say. Maybe not. I don't want to look down on Regina's experience, but it was his friends doing it, as I say. Okay, so Always Funner says, I guess it's a family trend for Ulrich and Katarina's children. Yeah, there we go. So Ulrich and Katarina's children did the same thing, tormented Regina's son. History repeats itself. That's a theme in the show as well. It pops up in every aspect of the show. 5,004 worth. When Anthony said 5, I thought, wow, he found 5 times Bartosz was a good guy. In reality, he found 2. Well, 2 so far. 2 so far. Also, it's interesting the 2 you're counting there, 5,004 worth, and you'll find out why later. All right, next one. Number 5. The time he told Marta she had nice hair. Now, this was very, in my poll, where I told you, I asked you what your favorite Bartosz moment. This was almost tied with Jackpot. I think Jackpot. I think that won the vote. But this one was very close second. The one where he says she had nice hair. Had to include it. It was a nice comment. I think at that point when he made that comment, oh my god! So thank you so much, Seabad Moon. That is the first ever super chat this channel has ever got. So thank you so much, Jackpot. That is unbelievable. What a first super chat for a channel on YouTube. That you couldn't ask for better. You could not ask for better. Thank you so much. All right, so I didn't include the Jackpot part. Obviously, that's not a good or bad moment. That's just a cool moment. 5 times Bartosz was cool. Jackpot, right? But yeah. So he said she had nice hair. Back at that time as well, like. There was we knew as an audience that he was eventually going to steal Jonas's girl, as if she belongs to Jonas. She doesn't, I know, but as if she was going to steal Jonas, he was going to steal Jonas's girl. At that point, he was just a guy telling a girl that she has nice hair. And I think we can all admit that sometimes people like to be told, given a compliment. Okay, and sometimes, it wasn't a catcall. Come on, guys, don't. It wasn't a catcall. He was. If anything, he was trying to ask her out. Actually, he wasn't man enough. It wasn't a catcall. I think. Maybe I'll leave that up to the women listening. Tell me whether Bartosz was catcalling. That'll change it completely. If he was catcalling her by saying nice hair, I don't think he was. He was giving her a compliment. He was trying to ask her out. But that's the way it goes. Still can't get over that Seabed Moon. Jackpot. So good. Alright, so that was the 5 times. Always Foreigner says, wow, he didn't neg her. Way to do the bare minimum. Yeah, I know. But that's Bartosz. We've got those crumbs of good person inside. We have to take them, and we have to put them in his 5 times he was a good guy. It's just the way it goes. I'm not even going to comment on that 5004. You need to get your mind out of the gutter. That's all I'll say. You need to get your mind out of the gutter. Right. 5 times Bartosz was a bad guy. Now, I'm pretty sure this one comes a lot easier to our minds. Right? Really, I had to stop myself. Like, I could have written 100 times Bartosz was the bad guy. The first time Bartosz was the bad guy, I think this is going to be number 1. The time he stole his best friend's girlfriend while he was being treated for a breakdown following his father's suicide. And I have missed an apostrophe in there. I apologize for that. So he stole his best friend's girlfriend. Again, I don't really like talking about stealing Marta. She can make her own choices. But he did start going out with the girl that his friend was starting to go out with whenever he went away to what I suppose can only be described as I don't know what you would say. It's not he didn't go to a mental institution. No, he didn't go to that. But he went away to sort of, it's kind of like, what would you call it? Like a place where he could go to have therapy and get through. I don't know what you would call it. He definitely wasn't in France playing hide the baguette. I can tell you that. All right, a few more comments coming in. So Synonymous Being says, well, he didn't know they got together, right? True. That is true. Unless, I don't know. What do you think? Did Jonas tell him? Probably not. Jonas isn't the speaking about that sort of thing type. Yeah, I know. Oh, come on, PB. You're taking away some of the fun here. You know. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy for it. He's a bad guy. All right. So Joey says, to me, Bartosz is like an Egon. Both have done less than noble things, but it seems these characters, more than others, are bad people. Just manipulated by people, time, the puppet masters. I agree with you. And a lot of the time, the people... every character in this show is grey, obviously. The vast majority, if not all, of the characters are a grey character. They're not good, they're not bad. They're somewhere in the middle. Like, everyone lives their life. They live by their decisions. And Bartosz is a character who was affected very negatively by all this time travel stuff. His family was affected by it. Like, Claudia had to go away, and Bartosz, had to deal with that with his mother not having a mother. He doesn't have a grandmother. He had to deal with that. Like, there's all that background within Bartosz. There's also his mother's trauma, which led to Bartosz being more sheltered and protected, maybe, or having. Well, I'm thinking of maybe the party whenever Bartosz was there with his mother having the dinner on their own. I can imagine Regina not letting him do other things other kids can do, and stuff like that, because of the way she was treated at that time. I don't think he's. I'm going to say this. As a moment of seriousness when talking about Bartosz, there's not many of them, but there's a moment of seriousness. He isn't a bad guy. I don't think Bartosz is a bad person, but I do think that he did some bad things, as most people do, and we're going to talk about them because some of them are funny. Let's be honest. Vic Disco says, yeah, but he did know Jonas and Marta were a thing. Did Jonas tell Marta she was with Jonas first? Did Marta tell him that she was with Jonas first? Yeah, maybe it does come down to Marta, really, doesn't it? Marta's the one who went straight over the Bartosz while Jonas was away. So maybe we're directing our ire in the wrong place there. But Bartosz loves the ire. That's the thing. He's a great vessel for it. Connecting the dots says maybe Bartosz didn't know she was Jonas's girlfriend. Yeah. So just spoken about that. Maybe not. Okay. A wellness center. Seabed Moon. Yeah, potentially. That's. I could see that being the name of it. Always Foreigner says it's significant. This is one of the first things we learned about him. That's a really good point. One of the first things we see from Bartosz, well, except for the moment where he's like, hang on, let me see if I can do this right. The shot at the start where he's like this. That's the first shot we see of Bartosz. So apart from that, we one of the first things we see is him holding Marta's hand, and then the way Jonas looks at that, and how that affects our main character in Jonas. That is strange. Like, that's what they wanted us to think of this character from the beginning. So we have to bear that in mind as well. Alright, so Joey says maybe Jonas saw it on TikTok. Well, TikTok wasn't around back then. That's the thing. Hate to be a buzzkill there, Joey, but wasn't around. Connecting the dots. Jonas is not kiss and tell. I think the same. All right, 5,004 worth. And worst of all, because of him, everyone is a Tiedemann. It's all because of him. That's the thing. Even that gets. We all blame him for that. It's his fault. Even though it was kind of HG Townhouse, Origin HG Townhouse's fault. Do you know what I mean? Kind of his fault. All right, what's the next one? What was I up to there? What's that? Number 1. That was number 1. So number 2. The time he made comments about Francesca's black hole. 5,004, you were exactly right. This is going on the bad guy list. And this is speaking as a teacher. If I was teaching a class and a pupil in my class made a comment like this, they'd be out of the room. They'd be out of the room and they'd be down the corridor talking to their form teacher, talking to their head of year, something like that. You cannot make comments like that. 1, in general. 2, when you're supposed to be listening to... Respect the teachers, please. Respect the teachers. Do the hard work. Oh my God, Bartosz, what are you thinking? I think we've covered that on the After Dark podcast enough. That is another thing which they should give us at the very beginning of the season. We see him holding Marta's hand and how that affects Jonas. We hear him talking about French hiding the baguette. We hear him talking about Francesca Doppler's black hole. It is enough, Bartosz. Like, the writers are just going, don't like this guy from the first moment. And you know what? It worked. Most of us from the start didn't really like Bartosz. He did win a lot of us round, but most of us didn't like him. All right, the next one. The time he kept Claudia visiting from his mother. So that's I've written that in a bit of a strange way. Probably should have had a comma in there at least. The time he kept Claudia visiting from his mother. So I don't know about you. Now maybe he's saying that his mother had cancer. Well, he didn't know at that point. He kept it from her to keep, maybe she got trauma over her mother leaving. He kept it from her. Why on earth did he wait from November all the way through to June to say, hey, Mum, that mother that you've been crying about for 33 years? Well, she was actually in the backyard. And I didn't tell you that. Mum, because of the cancer, you see. And then Regina's like, hang on, when was this? November. Well, you didn't know I had cancer then. Oh, right. Right. I probably should have told you then, Mum. I probably should have told you. So that's how I could imagine that conversation going. Because, let me tell you, I would be annoyed. If I hadn't seen my mum for 33 years and all of a sudden my son comes in and goes, yeah, see, like 7 months ago, she was in the backyard. That would annoy me. Very much so. Okay, so, that's another real kind of serious one, actually, isn't it? Not really that serious, but it kind of is. It's kind of serious. Like, Bartosz, I suppose the only thing you could say is that he was trying to protect his mother, and he just knew that it would break his mother or hurt her. Because, Claudia did leave again, I suppose. Like, there is an argument that wouldn't have worked the best, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I think Bartosz should have told her, personally. I think he should have told her. All right. I mean, I know he told her eventually, but he should have told her then and there. Okay, next one. Number 4. The time he wasn't there for the birth of one of his children. Okay, so in the first ones where I was talking about the good guy points, he got a good guy point for being there for the birth of Noah. Very, not like the men of that time. Having said that, he wasn't there for the birth of Agnes. And then subsequently, he wasn't there for the death of his wife. But he wasn't there for the birth of Agnes. And I think that if I gave him good boy points for being there for the birth of Noah, I have to take away some points, and I have to give him a bad boy point for not being there for the birth of Agnes. And I don't know what he was doing. He's probably busy, but at the same time, he should have been there. All his foreigner says, to play devil's advocate, as far as he knew, this was some strange, dirty woman claiming to be... Well, true, but, like, the casting was so good. He must have recognized it from old photos. He must have. Handsome Hedrigy says, well, it looks like it does look like he wanted to be there. I will say that. I wonder what he was doing. Maybe he was digging the tunnel even at that stage. Maybe they started that early, because it obviously looks like it took a long time. Let me see. Shelley says hello. Said like Konrad at the start of every After Dark podcast. Yeah, Konrad loves his hellos, we'll say that. Yeah, hello! Shelley, good to see you. Alright, Seabad Moon. He says he must have been working too hard on the 1910s cars. Yeah, that's what I thought. If he's just working on a car, Bartosz, no excuse. If he's all the way in the forest, maybe. But are we saying that Celia went into labour and then had the baby in the time it took him to run back from the forest? Like, we've seen these people going into the forest and out of the forest so many times. He should have been there. He should have been there. All right. Okay, so, or maybe it's that whenever he realized that, he realized that Noah was Noah when he was born, and he already knew who his daughter was going to be at that point. So he was like, it's like he was spoiled on the birth of his own daughter, and he's like, well, there's no point in watching it now. I've already seen the ending, that's probably what it was. Joey says, I love your hellos. To be honest, I always think of Mrs. Doubtfire. To be honest with you, Joey, Mrs. Doubtfire probably is the inspiration for that. Hello! Mrs. Doubtfire is great. We referenced Mrs. Doubtfire in this week's best movie podcast ever, actually. Check that out. Always a Foreigner says, and labour takes hours on average. Yeah, well, obviously, a quick labour is at least a couple of hours. A long labour could be days, So... See, come on, Bartosz, come on. I think he's had the spoilers, and he's like, well, I've already seen this one. I'm not gonna check it out. But he didn't know that Celia was going to die. But if he had known that, he would have been there. 5004 Worth says maybe he and Magnus were trying to sneak a peek at someone's. Oh, jeez. 5004. Oh god. I would say you lowered the tone, but I think I've had the tone lowered on the Culture Cave for quite a while now. But I will say to you though, if Magnus is trying to sneak a peek, maybe that's answers as to why they don't have any kids. That's all I'll say. Why is he having to sneak a peek? Right. Lord Stannis says he must have known Noah's real name was Hanno. Yeah, that's true. Stannis, I've like the look on his face when he realizes, when he's got that really bad beard on. He knows who it is. He knows Hanno's name. He just can tell he knows, So I think that's that. Handsome Head Injury says, "Yikes!" I think that's pointed towards the 5004 Worth comment. Not anything I've said. No, of course not. Not anything I've said. Okay, so let's see. What was the next one? I think this is the last one, guys. This is the last one, I think, and it is the time he left the parenting of Noah to Adam. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going to jump right in and say. That, come on, we didn't see a lot of it. I'm sure he was a dad to Noah. I'm sure, Yeah, I'm sure he was. But there was some key moments of that boy's upbringing that were left to Adam, and no one's going to going to convince me otherwise. Always the Foreigner says, is the beard one of his bad moments? It's one of his bad moments, but it's not something that makes him a bad guy. All right? I speak from a position of privilege. I have a full beard. I have friends and siblings, actually, who do not have the same ability as me, and I would never badmouth them. There's nothing wrong with not being able to grow a beard properly. So, Bartosz, I'm not giving you a bad point on that one. No problem. Joey says, maybe need a refresher on this, but do we think Bartosz knew Noah was going to kill him? The first scene in Season 2, Episode 1, can't remember exactly, but I think Bartosz kind of... So I was going to speak about this after Bartosz's death, but we'll talk about it now. I think that the way he was sitting and the way he was sort of just waiting for it, and his expression on his face, and I personally think that he did. I think he knew it was coming eventually. I don't know if he particularly knew it was going to happen at that exact moment, but he knew. Even the way he said to Noah, he said, "It's interesting that he sent you to do this. He asked you to do it." So I do think that he did know personally, which is really interesting, because if obviously this doesn't really come into it because everything is predetermined. Everything's predetermined. You can't change what you're going to do. But if I knew that someone was going to put a pickaxe through my neck, I probably would avoid tunnel digging duty that day. That's all I'll say. I probably wouldn't go down to the mine. That's rule one. Rule one of life. If you know you're going to get a pickaxe through the neck, take a day off. That's how I'd be thinking about it. Okay. Seabed Moon says, love his expression when Noah was born. Yeah, I agree. I love that as well. He just knows. He just knows. All right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. So that's the 5 ways he's a bad guy. 5 ways he's a good guy. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there are a lot more. So in terms of Bartosz in general, and I've got a couple of things I'm going to talk about that aren't Bartosz related in a minute, but in general, I think Bartosz is a troubled soul. A troubled soul that maybe started out as a little bit of a dick, but he definitely didn't deserve the path that he went on. I think that it's a classic, like, when you take someone from a normal situation, like a normal, like, high school situation, you could think that they're a really bad person, really bad character in that regard. But once you put them into the bigger world, once you, like, put them into this huge time travel science fiction-y world, he's all of a sudden not the worst in the world, you know? Even, like, there are moments of his character where he actually does go on more kind of redemptive arcs, or he sort of starts maturing into himself and he starts making better decisions. Even without that, though, just the context that he finds himself in, up against these big, like, Adam seems to be doing terribly for everyone. Eva, the unknown, Gary, all these people, you know, seem to be way worse than him. And when you're out of that high school context, all of a sudden Bartosz doesn't seem that bad. You know, so even though his character does get those moments where he does get a bit of redemption, and, like, in our eyes personally, it actually the work was already kind of done for us because of the context shift. Also, I'm not really talking about Alt Bartosz here because it's not the same character, but even the way that Alt Bartosz, his life went slightly differently, and we sort of met that Bartosz while we were already 2/3 of the way through the other Bartosz's story. Having that other Bartosz there, who don't think many of us have too many bad things to say about Alt Bartosz, having him there as well meant that we were warmed around to our Bartosz a little bit more as well, I think. I think that does play a part in that. Okay, Marie says his grandma sacrificed him in the end. Well, yeah. And there was a lot of people who were led into this world where the people who led them in knew where their end was. Like Noah, his own son, is the one who got him into Sigmundus involved in the time travel stuff in the 2019, and Noah knew, this is the man I'm going to kill one day. Like, he knew that, and he still got him involved. So that happens a lot in Dark, like where the people, you know, knowingly get people into the path that will lead to their death. It's unfortunate, but it is the way it goes. Vic says, did the book explain Bartosz's whole life? Did he know all the events? I think I've missed something. I wonder if it was in Noah's book when he would die. When Bartosz would die. Interesting. It is interesting. Maybe we could do a dark discussions of that one day. Like, what do we think was actually in the book? Because obviously, I don't think the book included everything. Because I think that on Stranger Eva's bunker wall, there are dates on that wall. So the dates that are on that wall possibly would be in the book as well, and they would you know, match up with things that we've seen happen in the show. So that's something as well. Like, someone actually put in a comment that we could do an analysis of the bunker wall in the alt world in the future. That's a cool idea too. Vic says Noah could have chosen a better way to kill his dad. Pickaxe, damn. True, that is a horrible way to go. Definitely horrible way to go. At the same time, it's what he had. I'm sure Adam didn't say, here, go down and kill him with a pickaxe. What else was he supposed to do? I think probably what I would have done if you had access to a time machine and you were told you had to kill someone, probably what I would have done is went back like 200 years and just left them there. Or even better, go forward 200 years and leave them there. I think that I wouldn't kill them. I think I would just take them off the board, so to speak, if you know what I mean. Okay, so that's that. That is Bartosz. And if anything else you want me to mention about Bartosz, I will do. So what I thought I would do is talk about a couple of things. Now, these are not necessarily dark related, but I can refer. I think I'll, as I do with everything in my life, guys. To be completely honest with you, I talk about. I compare everything with dark, and I actually have had to make an effort in my review videos not to mention dark very much. So when I did my Biohackers one, I don't think I mentioned dark once. When I did my Tribes Europa one, obviously I mentioned about Oliver Masucci, and I also I did a joke with dark at the start. But I have to try and divorce my head from dark when I'm looking at other things, because can you imagine if someone comes along to the channel and watches a review of some random show, and all I'm doing is talking about how it's like dark, and I sort of have to get away with that. I have to get away from that a little bit. But having said that, it is something that I do quite frequently in my own life. I'm always comparing things to dark, always. Okay, so but what I would do, I mentioned a while ago that I'm watching a TV show every day while on the exercise bike. And I thought it would be really cool to sort of go through and not really review, but give you my thoughts in short on some of the shows that I've been watching, because there's been a few shows that I've watched which people have recommended to me while in this chat. So first of all, the first one that I was going to mention here was, I've got a comment, let me see. It is Lord Stannis says dark has deservedly become the benchmark for every other show. That's a key word, deservedly. For me, dark is the benchmark. It is the benchmark. Having said that, I have very quickly, I don't judge another show based on dark, but I will compare. I will compare them. I've always been a person, and you probably notice from watching my videos, guys, I've always been a person that's been able to put every preconceived notion at the door before I watch something. Now, I don't like everything, but it maybe means I come out liking certain things that other people just throw in the bin as trash, because I see it for what it is. And I don't really like star ratings, so sometimes when I say I like something, people assume that means I think it's an 8 out of 10. It's not true. I can like something and think it's a 5 out of 10. So that's my number one thing, is I try not to have preconceived notions. Having said that, after I've seen it, then yeah, I'm going to compare it to dark. I'm going to compare it to everything, and I'll probably bring it in there. But that's sort of how I work here. All right, so Marie says the tattoo of Bartosz might mirror Noah's. It definitely mirrors it quite literally. One's on the back, one's on the front. I always found it really interesting that Bartosz got that tattoo. As Konrad said on the After Dark podcast, he sort of got caught up in the cult, didn't he? He sort of got caught up in the cult of Sigmundus eventually. He would have had to, because he wouldn't have got that tattoo otherwise. Shally says the issue with Bartosz is that he had no conviction whatsoever. He takes what comes his way and never fights the path he is on. People hate that. I think I would agree with you, and that's why actually in the third season, when he starts to try and fight his way, doesn't actually end up very well. He doesn't successfully fight his way. But when he starts to find his way, when he starts to find his way and he starts to stand up to the stranger, that's a moment which really brought a lot of fans on his side in that moment anyway. And that goes to your point, Shelley, is the reason why we were on his side is because he started actually having a bit of conviction about his decisions. All right, so the real YT says, "Hi, Anubi. Hello, welcome to the community. Very happy to have you." Everyone always compares the shows and movies to Twin Peaks. I've never seen Twin Peaks, and that's one that I really want to do in the After Dark podcast one day. But in order to do it, I have to actually watch it. So let me know actually in the chat there, the real. Do you think that Twin Peaks is worth me watching if I haven't seen it? Is it worth the comparison that everyone makes to it from other shows? I'd be really interested to see. I've heard good things about it. I've also heard that it's absolutely off the wall. So it is probably up my alley. So I'll give it a go eventually. And it is one that I maybe want to cover on the After Dark podcast. Handsome Hedgery says, I mean, it's like that because it went back in time. It is like because went back in time and went forward. Okay, I'm not quite sure what you're referencing there. Maybe Twin Peaks. The idea that Twin Peaks is compared to Dark, possibly. I think I'm extrapolating meaning there that maybe isn't there. Okay, so right. So first show I wanted to talk about is I've been told to watch this by a few different people in this live chat as well as in comments, and that is Orphan Black. I don't know if you've seen Orphan Black. Orphan Black is a Canadian show. Well, it's filmed in Canada. It's set in Canada, so I assume it is a Canadian show. And it's about a woman who sees a woman who looks exactly like her jump in front of a train. That's how the show starts. Excuse me. The show starts with a woman seeing herself basically jump in front of a train. That's what it starts like. It's called Orphan Black. It's on Netflix for us in the UK. I don't know where else you would get it. Now the thing is, I'll give a proviso to people who haven't seen Orphan Black yet. There's a proviso to it, and this kind of is a dark discussion because black, dark, you get it. So it's a proviso on this show. It is very TV, okay, and what I mean by that is that the score's always going like boom, 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 boom. It has the big crescendo into the advert break. It has the sets, which are very clearly sets, which they all like, sort of like the Friends coffee shop. Like they all come back to the same set every time. They have like the very flamboyant gay brother. Like it's very TV. It's very TV. Having said that, the plot is very, very compelling. I've almost finished season 1. I'm doing it on the bike, so it's 1 episode per day. Some days I don't get to watch it because I have to do the bike during the day, and it's not really a show suitable for having my children running around while I'm watching it. But it's very compelling. Basically, I'm gonna. If you don't want to hear this, guys, just switch off. But I'm gonna set up the first episode for you so that you can start to see. Because I want to make a prediction, and I want it to be lodged here on the internet, so that when it comes true, because I'm pretty sure it comes true, I want to be able to say that I predicted that. So basically, in Orphan Black, what happens is this character called Sarah finds a. It starts up with her seeing a woman who looks exactly like her, and she jumps in front of a train. So then she's like, "Oh my god, what happened there?" But the woman left behind her bag. So this woman who's Sarah is kind of like a. She's a bit of a criminal. She's got a sort of a sketchy past. She's also a victim in certain ways in her past as well. She picks up the bag and takes it. She was going to steal it, right? So she then assumes this woman's identity. And she assumes a woman's identity because she wants to see if she can steal anything from her. Now, unfortunately, very quickly in the series, maybe even the first episode, you find out that there is more than one person who looks like her. Okay? So that's where I'm... one more thing I'll say about it is that the woman whose identity she takes is actually a police officer. So therefore, she's sort of having to go in and actually... she's having to go and try and solve crimes, and she's never done anything like that before in her life. But it's an interesting and compelling story. Now, I want to say something, right? First of all, you find out within the first episode, or maybe the second episode, that they are clones. So it's a clone show, right? There's clones going on. Now, here's my prediction that I have not found out the answer for. I might be wrong, and I want to have this recorded here. This is my prediction. My prediction is, and I think it's pretty obvious, that's why I'm saying it, that I kind of want it to be true. The prediction is that the main character, Sarah her name is not a clone. I think she's the original. That's my thought. Having said that, it seems so obvious to me that if it turned out not to be the case, that would be even if they came up with a reason why she isn't the original, and they had another character be the original, but it all made sense, then I'd be fully up on board for that too. But I'm pretty sure that she is the original. Okay, so Orphan Black is one that I've been watching. I also watched Biohackers, which I've got a review out of that as well. If you want to check that out, I watched Biohackers on the bike. I also watched Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm not that big of a Star Trek fan. I haven't seen everything. to be honest with you, I wasn't that impressed with Lower Decks. My friend Emmett, who is a Star Trek fan, he liked it for what it was, but I think it's if you want to watch an adult style comedy cartoon, it's not the one for you. So there you go. Right, let's see if there's any other Frack and Toast lovers come in. Okay, I'm sure this is Frack, and I'm sure you'll get us back on topic here. So Bartosz probably got the tattoo and got into the cult more because of Celia. He was a simple man. He started having convictions. Yeah, eventually. She then a pretty girl comes back to her eyelashes, convictions gone. Yeah, you could be right, actually, because Celia obviously would have been fully into the cult. I think you're actually probably right. You're probably right there that it was literally Celia being really involved. Like, I'm sure, like, I don't know if I could speak this for myself. I think it is a thing that when you start like going out with someone, you sort of take on some of their interests. So maybe that's what Bartosz did, you know? Like, some girls start listening to rap music because that's what their boyfriend's into. Bartosz got into a cult. That's how it goes. The Real YT says, the actress from Orphan Black is the new She-Hulk. I did see that. The actress from Orphan Black, I will say, you're talking about a clone show, so she's got to play a load of different characters. She's playing like a Russian one, she's playing an English one, she's playing an American one, playing a Canadian one. And I am not the best ear for accents in terms of thinking that, but for me, they all work. She is really good. The actress, the main actress who plays all the different clones, she's really good. And the fact that she's going to be She-Hulk now, that makes me really interested in that. I always wondered, like, the She-Hulk TV show that they're doing, are they going to, do you think they're going to do like a CG Hulk like they do in the films, or do you think they're going to go for a sort of more physical? I think they probably will be CG, but just because it's a TV budget, it makes me think that what's it going to look like? You know what I mean? I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like, and I'm really intrigued to see. Vic says, I used to be a big Star Trek fan, but I don't know. I just can't get into the new Trek. I think, as far as I can tell, it seems to be a thing with Star Trek that people really love the Star Trek was their time. Now, having said that, I don't know if anyone's going to think of the new stuff like Discovery. I don't think anyone's going to view that as their favorite. Like, that's the thing. I think the new Trek is a bit different in that way. Is that everything up to now, people could have viewed it as their Star Trek. I don't think most people are going to be viewing Discovery as their Star Trek, unless there's like a young 14, 15-year-old who's watching Star Trek for the first time. Maybe we have to wait and see. But I think like it's almost, the world is going this way with these big franchises, is that they're almost turning into an echo of themselves. And yeah, it's an interesting point, but personally, I had never really seen much Star Trek, just here and there, seen an episode, watched a couple of the films. So I personally like Discovery for all, even though it has all of its flaws. I enjoy being in the world, but I can see why you would prefer the older stuff, if I'm honest with you. All right, guys. So I think we can come down on the side that Bartosz was a troubled fella who did some bad things, but maybe at the end of the day, he wasn't worth all of our ire. I think that he should have had stronger convictions, definitely. I think if the show had not went into time travel and it would have and it stayed in the high school setting, I think Bartosz would have been annoying and it would have been one of the worst characters and we would have hated him. But I think I think Bartosz, by the end of the show, had a bit more sympathy from us than maybe we thought he would. Handsome Hitter Henry says franchises are like clones. Yeah, exactly. They are like clones, like I would say that. I know they're not like clones. I would say they're like photocopies. They're like photocopies. Every time you photocopy it again, it gets worse quality. So every photocopy is a worse quality than the last, and then eventually it's just like a black paper. That's what I would say. Clones, I think. Because when you're cloning, you're always cloning from the original, so it's not quite the same. Whereas photocopy, if you can imagine photocopying of the paper, taking the photocopy and then photocopying that, eventually, that's what franchises do. They just keep churning out the same crap. So yeah, that's a great way to finish the stream. But that's just the way it is. I haven't actually seen the PB says teacher and his photocopies. Geez, photocopies are a real thing. Every teacher gets into teaching thinking, you know what? I'm going to have no worksheets. I'm gonna be a new, hip teacher. I'm not gonna have any work. Everyone needs to photocopy stuff. It's just the way it is. You need to photocopy stuff. You need to have something that the questions are on. Like, that's the thing. It's just a really interesting thing. Photocopying is a huge thing in the teaching industry, as I'm sure it is other stuff too. All right. I'm pretty sure that's me, guys. Oh yes, I wanted to mention that a lot of people for a long time have been saying we should get a Discord for the channel so people can continue to talk about Dark and continue to talk about everything else we do throughout the week and whenever you want, basically. So I have been looking into that, and I've got a Discord set up now. I'm going to commit to next Monday on the Dark Discussions live stream. I will give out I'll give out the Discord details. There's a few things I want to set up in there at the minute, but it's pretty much just going to be a bog standard Discord where everyone just goes in and you can comment and stuff. That's all it's really going to be. Vic says, get on Moodle, Anthony. It's a godsend. No more photocopying. Yeah. I've got all those sorts of things, and even at the minute, I'm very happy with I'm using Google Classroom at the minute, and I'm very happy with how that's going. So when at the minute, I'm doing a lot of remote learning. I'm teaching from home because of we're on lockdown in the UK at the minute. But when I go back to ordinary school, I'll probably continue doing that because I actually have found it really useful, really useful. Moodle. Okay, I'll remember that, Moodle. 5004 Worth is talking about the Ditto machine. Old enough to remember the Ditto machine. I'm going to show my age here, and I just when I know what the word Ditto means, but all I think of is Pokemon. To be completely honest with you, I use Pokemon. I know I don't use Pokemon. Pokemon is Ditto. Ditto is Pokemon. I'm assuming that's what I'm thinking. But Ditto, obviously, you're obviously talking about something in terms of copying. But there we go. So the Discord is going to give that out to you next week. Which I'm really looking forward to, because in the future, I would love on these Dark Discussions sometimes to have some of you guys come on and talk with me. Because that was an idea I said at the very beginning of Dark Discussions, is that I would love to actually have, a couple of call-ins, episodes where we have some people calling in, and then we can just have a chat about Dark. I would love to do that. Just like, I know it's probably risky. Maybe it'll be a bit boring sometimes. Maybe we'll not, because we never have talked to each other before. Maybe there'll be a bit, but I think it's worth the risk, because I think you guys would have a lot of interesting stuff to say. No matter what I talk about on here, a load of yous are ready and willing to just dump your brain into the comments, and I love that, and I would love to give that a platform as well. Obviously, if no one feels comfortable doing that, then that's absolutely fine. But it's possible with the Discord, is what I'm saying. All right, guys. So. 5004's come in with an explanation here, and we'll probably have to leave it there. When I was in elementary school, that's how teachers made photocopies. Oh, they called it the Ditto machine. Oh, interesting. Kurt says, regarding call-ins, look into this new stereo app. Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. I'll look into that then. Maybe that's a better way to do it. But anyway, the Discord will be there for us to have some group chats going on and stuff to talk about Dark and all that sort of thing. But I will look. Good idea. Okay, stereo. I'll remember that. Thanks, Kurt. And Joey says, thanks, Anthony. Love this channel. And you and Konrad. Thanks, Joey. That means a lot to us. We're trying to put out some good stuff. We're always thinking about how to improve the channel. We really, really appreciate you guys coming along, especially these live streams where I get to talk to you in real time. It really means a lot. And yeah, that reminds me. Next week, Konrad is going to be here. So if you have any ideas for what we could talk about with Konrad next week, let me know. I don't have a topic scheduled. I am going to be talking in a few weeks about the music of Dark. And I've got a few ideas about that one. But let me know in the comments after the video is released, so I'll go and check them there. What do you think Konrad and I could talk about next week? All right, guys. Bill's just said, just missed it. Catch you next time. No problem, Bill. Thanks for dropping in. You got to mention, because you were here just in time. Right, guys. Thanks very much. drop a like here if you haven't already, just before you leave. And I'll see you next week with Konrad on Dark Discussions. See you later.